So I'm here with Tony Green, who's the head of engineering and asset management for National Grid gas transmission. Hello, Tony. Thanks for joining us here at Utility Week Live on the second day. So obviously this is the first year that we've had the Gas Innovation Showcase. So I wondered if you could start by telling us a bit about what opportunities that's given yourselves and the gas networks at the event.
I guess the first thing is a much bigger footfall. We've been going to LC&I for a number of years, but it's quite a small footfall in comparison to what we actually see here at Utility Week Live. I personally have been coming to this event for many, many years. I came from the water industry originally, which have been dominating this show for a long time, but it's absolutely fabulous to see all of the utilities now represented here, and we've had a tremendous amount of interest on the stand, and it's really good having all of the networks next to each other, and people are able to cruise between the conversations, and there's so much integrated thought going on now. It's been brilliant.
And a couple of other people that I've spoken to that have been involved with it have said it's been a great idea for obviously the sharing of ideas and taking things forward in that way. Would you go along with that?
Absolutely. In fact, I've had a couple of conversations this morning where we're talking about future potential projects and how we're going to interact together. So from an integration point of view, having us side by side on the stand, and then we've got the network theatre that we've been talking in this morning as well.
Yeah.
So we've had a consecutive bunch of presentations, and we're able to reference the projects that we're talking about on the stand right next to us. So it's been really, really good.
And obviously recently there's been a lot of talk in the media around climate change, and the Committee on Climate Change have come out with this net zero ambition.
Yep.
I wondered if you could tell us about the role of the gas networks, I suppose, in terms of decarbonisation. I think they were identified as potentially playing quite a key role in that by the committee.
Yeah, absolutely, and particularly in the transition side of things. So at the moment, the networks are 100% methane. By definition, it has carbon in it. We are all exploring how we decarbonise those networks, and the DN's led that charge primarily initially, but now National Grid Transmission is really looking at what we can do. So if you look across all of the gas networks, we're looking at, can we blend at low levels, right the way through to can we carry 100% hydrogen. So different networks are approaching different aspects of that, and we're all sharing the results. And it's quite exciting. There's a really interesting potential here for, initially, can we put small levels of hydrogen in to start a partial decarbonisation? Can we ramp up to, say, 20% hydrogen, which we believe would not cause any impact on people's boilers, people's burners, people's cookers in their homes, so very little disruption. And then what would it mean to go to the next level, which would be moving to 100% hydrogen, which would involve more disruption. So we are looking there at what would a 100% hydrogen burner boiler look like, cookers, and the impacts on the networks. So at National Grid Gas Transmission, we're now looking at the real detail of, can we put any hydrogen into the network? And our early research is saying absolutely we can. The risk profile changes, so we're understanding what needs to be done to mitigate that. And in many ways, it's quite simple. We need a small amount of oxygen in the gas flow, and that will protect the pipes against any cracking.
Right.
So, although there are challenges in moving to hydrogen, there's always a mitigation that we're finding so far. So we haven't found anything that's unsurmountable so far, but we've all got to go through that process of assessing the risks and finding suitable mitigations overall.
Yeah, because there's obviously been a number of projects and a lot going on in the hydrogen space, but would you say that is one of the main challenges, trying to adopt it, I suppose, at that larger scale? But like you say, you've got to do it, in a fashion where you don't rush into it. You've got to prove it, and then, I suppose, do it at that higher level. Or bigger scale.
We've got to address it at a number of levels, because there's a technical layer that we've got to prove. We have a responsibility for safety first and foremost. We've got to make sure that whatever we transport is safe for the members of the public. So that's first and foremost. We've got to settle that technical piece. The second piece we've got to address is the policy piece. So at the moment, we're not allowed to carry any hydrogen in the UK gas network. We've got to look at GSMR and how we adjust the levels there. And we've got to adapt all of the policy measures, all the iGEM standards we'll have to adapt to accommodate carrying hydrogen. So there's a lot of work in the policy space. But then above that, there's the overall, I'll call it the system operation piece of the network. So my colleagues in National Grid System Operator at the moment balance the network every day for both gas and electricity. We've got to start addressing actually how do we operate a future gas network that is going to have a mix of gases in it. So parts of the network will be hydrogen, parts of the network will be methane, especially in that transition phase. So there's an awful lot of things that we've got to look at, technical, then policy, and then overall operation, and actually how does all the commercials operate within that environment. So lots of work to do.
Lots of challenges, but I suppose the collaborative effort helps with that as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're absolutely sharing the challenges. So we've got a hydrogen transformation group that the networks have formed with BEIS and with Ofgem. That's absolutely fantastic because that's allowing us to map out an overall pathway, identify where our projects are delivering so far, and more importantly, identify where the gaps are. And then we can address those gaps with future research.
And I wondered if you could touch upon some of the other things that National Grid are working on at the moment.
What, in terms of the decarbonisation?
Yeah, or in general in terms of on the gas network, some of the things you're doing.
Our biggest challenge at the moment is the majority of the gas transmission network was built 40 to 50 years ago with a design life of 40 years.
Yeah.
The key word there is design life. That's not end of life. So we are dealing with an end of design life asset in many cases. So my biggest challenge at the moment is really focusing in on asset health, making sure that we are absolutely understanding the condition of our assets and any potential risk of those assets failing over time. So we've got a lot of work going on to look at asset health. Readers will be familiar with the Project Grade, our robot that we've developed over recent years. We've had a lot of very successful trials with that last year, and we're now building into our RIIO-T2 plans how we can actually leverage the Grade robot to get into our asset and really do that very detailed assessment, particularly around the above ground installations and our terminals. Those are really the key areas where we can't put pigs down we put pigs down the pipelines everywhere else, but around our above ground installations, that's our biggest area where we really need to understand the asset health. So I'm really looking forward to utilising Grade in those areas to access that. The other big project we've just wrapped up under NIC is Project Clock, which is the low-cost customer connections project. And this is really looking at how we can speed up the access to the National Grid transmission network and also reduce the cost. And we've got our first pilot customers coming on board, which are going to look at putting biomethane into the gas network, into the transmission network for the first time. So we're reducing the access time from 3 to 4 years to below a year. Internally, we've even set an even tighter challenge to take that even further, so that we can more rapidly get people onto the network that want to access it. So lots going on, particularly in asset health.
And I wondered how much of a challenge is it to sort of get consumers, I suppose, to go on that kind of journey with you, in terms of getting them to understand the benefits of everything that you're doing to try and move things forward?
That's a really good question, especially as we're developing our RIIO-T2 plans. And one of the things we've been doing is getting out and talking to consumers. As a transmission network, we are quite far removed from a consumer, as in you and myself, that would be customers on the network. So what we're doing is actually having customer listening sessions. So we are going out with a market research company. We're explaining the role of National Grid, both from an electricity transmission point of view and a gas transmission point of view, explaining how much of the customer bill that we're responsible for. And it's only £9.20 a year is what pays for the gas transmission piece. And then we're explaining what our role is. We move the gas. So the shippers put the gas into our network at the terminals. We move the gas through the UK and we hand it over to the distribution network. So we're spending a lot of time helping customers understand what our role is and actually how important we are to their comfort in a home. And one of the things that really comes out is just how much people value heat in their homes. The level of interruption on the gas network is very, very small. An average customer will get interrupted about 1 in every 140 years. So our system reliability is world class in this country, and they don't want that to drop. So it's a very valued network, and we're also asking them, what do you want from us in terms of reliability? What do you want from us in terms of decarbonisation? And we're getting them to help us shape our business plan. So we're going to be able to share that very soon, and we're going to share that research out with stakeholders so that we can actually help justify our business plan based on consumers' requirements.
And I wondered if I could get some of your thoughts on the government's recently announced future home standards, including plans to ban gas heating systems in new homes from 2025. What kind of impact is that likely to have?
I think that will drive the plans quicker. So all of the gas networks are going to have to respond much quicker. If you go back to the original text of the speech, it's banning fossil fuel boilers.
Yeah.
So that actually leaves the opportunity open to move to a decarbonised gas such as hydrogen, as we've already spoken about. So it's not a complete ban on gas boilers, it's a ban on the fossil fuel side going into properties. If we can get to a point that we can start that migration to partial hydrogen and then to full hydrogen, we're just going to have to speed up that whole process about how do we achieve those net zero targets. My personal view is it's going to be a whole system approach. We've got to have the electricity networks working with the gas networks. We've got to have the regulator giving us combined regulation. We've got to have policy that brings everything together, because my belief is we're going to have regional solutions. What works in the north won't necessarily work in the south. We've got to focus on what's optimal for the customer, delivering lowest cost to the customer at least disruption. So we've got to deliver clean heat. That's the ultimate goal. And we've got to deliver that in an easy way for customers. They really don't want disruption in their homes. So we're going to have almost a patchwork quilt across the country, is my belief, making the best use of each energy network that we've got, maximising the use of renewables. So if you live in the southwest, you get more solar. If you live on the east coast, you've got more wind. Where can we bring hydrogen onshore? Where can we create it? Is the whole electrolysis area going to really grow in the future years? I really hope so, because I see that as a big opportunity. So bringing pure blue hydrogen onto the network, not just green hydrogen, So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for the networks to work together and figure this out. But it's not an easy one. There's a lot to do.
So very much, and others have said it when I've spoken to them today, it's about that multi-vector approach, and like you say, not one size fits all.
Yeah, completely agree.
And just a final question, in Network Magazine we've been shining a light on the network of the future, so I wondered if you could give your thoughts on what you think, given our conversation today, what you think the gas network of the future might look like.
If I had a crystal ball, I'd probably be doing the lottery. I think we'll enter a transition phase, first of all. I would think we will start putting levels of hydrogen into the network and begin that partial decarbonisation. I suspect in the long-term future, moving to a full 100% hydrogen world, the gas network may well be a bit smaller, because there will be parts of the country that will be more suited to electrification, more decentralised forms of energy. We will still, if you look at all of the research out to 2050, be using an awful lot of gas. So all of the future energy scenarios that National Grid publish demonstrate there is a future gas network. The question is, how quickly does it decarbonise, and what levels of hydrogen are running in it? Or actually, does the transmission network carry on carrying methane to the steam methane reformers or the autothermal reactors, and we're generating the hydrogen there and moving it on? Because if you look at the levels of methane that are available in the world, there's an awful lot of new LNG trains coming online around the world at the moment. Qatar's looking to increase its LNG exportation by 43%. There's 4 new LNG trains coming online in the States. The Australians are exporting more. There's a lot more coming online in East Africa. So in this transition phase, we're going to have a lot of methane around the world, so we may as well make use of it. But then the question is, how do we decarbonise it? So we're going to have to get CCUS up and running. So going back to the original question, what does the future gas network look like? I think it's a steady state now and then a gradual decarbonisation as we go through that transition phase, and the future hopefully will be 100% decarbonised future.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Tony. I really appreciate it. Thanks
for
talking
talking
to us.
Thanks a lot.